So here we're going to talk about how to find X-intercepts and Y-intercepts. And then once we do this, I'm going to graph the equation. Now, to graph a line, a linear equation, you need only 2 points. Okay? So you need only 2 points to graph a line. If I know 2 points, I can draw a line through that. Now, if it's a vertical line, really all you need is 1 point. Or if it's a horizontal line, all you need is 1 point. Okay, so that kind of makes it a little bit easier. But for sure, 2 points will get you any line, whether it be vertical, horizontal, or slanted. Okay, so if we find intercepts, we should be good to go, unless that intercept is the origin. All right, that would be the one scenario where we'd need another point. All right, now take the example 4x minus 3y equals 12. 4x minus 3y equals 12. I want to find x-intercepts and y-intercepts. Okay, so number one, I want to do the x-intercept. So to find the x-intercept, what do? Right? How do I do this? Well, let me throw up a little sticky grid. Okay. You know what? Let me just get rid of this. That's going to help me out a little bit. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and then down 4. All right. So let's do a graph like this and this. So this is my x-axis. And this is my y-axis. Okay. Now, to find x-intercepts, okay, what is the value of y on the x-axis? The value of y is 0. So we talked about that. To find an x-intercept, I set y equal to 0. Okay, set y equal to 0. All right, if I do that, then what happens with the equation above here? So the equation above, what happens? Well, the y becomes 0. Okay, so everywhere I see a y, I put a 0. And so 0 times negative 3 is 0, so that gets me 4x equals 12. If I divide by 4, I get x equals 3. Okay, so x equals 3, that's an equation. I want to know the location. The intercepts are locations. Okay, so it's a location. So the biggest mistake I see is people say the answer is x equals 3. Technically, it's an xy coordinate. So what is the xy coordinate? It's 3, comma, and then what was y equal to? It was equal to 0. So 3, comma 0. So 1, 2, 3. So 3, comma 0 is the x-intercept. Now let's do the y-intercept. The y-intercept, okay? The y-intercept, what is this? This is where we cross the y-axis. This would be where x is equal to 0. Okay, where x is equal to 0. So I set x equal to 0 here. And so what does that do? I take my equation here, and everywhere I see an x, I replace it with 0. So 0 times 4 is 0, so that gives me negative 3y equals 12. Divide by negative 3, I get y equals negative 4. So since it's a location, same thing, location. Okay, so since it's a location, then what do I know? It's an xy coordinate. Well, x is equal to 0 on the y-axis, and y here was -4. So it's 1, 2, 3, -4 right here. So 0, comma, -4. So once you plot the points, once you plot those intercepts, then you draw a line that goes straight through both of those points. And now all of a sudden you've got all your points for your question. Okay? So remember, we don't stop here. Write the location. It's a location. The intercept is a location. Okay, I can't stress this enough. This is, one of the most common mistakes in college algebra. Okay, mixing up intercept versus x equals or something like that. All right. So we talk about zeros later. We'll get a little bit more lax, but for now, intercepts are locations. Okay. Let's try another one. 4 minus 2y equals -2 minus 6x. Okay. So if I find the x-intercept, right, what do I do to find the x-intercept? I set y equal to 0. Guys, I want to show you a little trick, okay? I call this my block, all right? Now, since you can't see my hand to cover it up, I have to make a little blob here, okay? Now, if I'm looking for an x-intercept, what do I care about? I only care about the x's, okay? I only care about the x's. So what do I not care about? I do not care about the y's. So I'm going to take my y's and I'm going to cover them up, okay? What do I mean by that? I'm going to take my blob and I'm going to cover up the y's. So put your finger over the y's. You see that -2y? I'm covering it. Oh my gosh. How do I make it? Cover it up. Can I not cover it up? All right, there we go. So I got to cover it up the old-fashioned way. So I cover it up. It goes away. Now all I have left are my x's. So I have 4 equals -2 minus 6x. Add 2, add 2. That gives me 6 equals -6x. Divide by -6. This gets me -1 for x. So what does that tell me? The x-intercept is -1, comma 0. All right? Now, the y-intercept, what do we care about for the y-intercept? Well, if we set x equals to 0, then everything that has an x term in it is going to disappear. Okay? It's just going to go away. So what is that? What is that? Everything that has an x term in it goes away. So I take my blob and I cover up the x's. So it looks like this is the only x I have here. So I'm covering it up. It goes away. So now I got to solve for y. Because if I'm going for a y-intercept, all I care is about the y's. Subtract 4, subtract 4. I get -2y equals -6. Divide by -2, divide by -2. Y equals 3. So what does this tell me? Y-intercept is 0, comma 3. Okay? So now I have 2 points. Ooh, that's probably not a good color. I've got -1, 0 and 0, 3. So how am I going to graph this? Well, if I go here and do my little grid. Okay. How would I graph this? First thing I need some axes. Okay. So the intercepts are -1, 0. So I go over -1, 0. So that's -1, 0. And then up 3, 1, 2, 3. So 0, 3, just like that. And once you have 2 dots, then you just draw a line through those 2 dots. Okay. There we go. Close enough. All right. So that, my friends, is the line that passes through those two right there. Okay? Now let's try another one. All right, let's do another one. Example, 3y equals 9. 3y equals 9. X-intercepts. X-intercept, I set y equal to 0, right? So everywhere I see a y, put a 0, so it becomes 3 times 0 equals 9. So 0 equals 9. Huh. In what world does 0 equal 9? This is a contradiction. It's never true. So that means there's no x-intercept. Okay? That means that there's no x-intercept. Interesting. No x-intercept. What about a y-intercept? What do? I set x equal to 0. Well, I don't see an x in there. Do you? So we just go with it. 3y equals 9. Solve for y, divide both sides by 3. I get y equals 3. So the y-intercept is 0, 3. So if I graph this, okay. So this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis. So I've only got this point right here, y-intercept, 1, 2, 3. All right. Now, if there's no x-intercept, that means what? That I can have a little bit of bend here? Well, I mean, if you think about it, guys, like if you think about it, if you zoom out way far, if there's a little bit of a bend, eventually it crosses, right? So in a way, we can't have a bend at all, right? It actually needs to be parallel with this x-axis if it's never going to cross, right? So this is what's known as a horizontal line. Okay? And the equation, right? This is why I make a difference here. Okay? This is why I say this is not the same thing as location. This is an equation of a line. This is a location of a point. All right, they're two different things, okay? So the equation of the line, this says that no matter what x is, the y value is always 3. So any x that I plug in a -2 for x, I'm always going to output a +3. No matter what x I plug in, it always outputs y equal to 3. That's what that equation says. The location 0, 3 is this y-intercept. That's the y-intercept there. So in general, so we figured out something in general. So horizontal lines are of the form y equals some number. Okay? Y is equal to some number. That is a horizontal line. Okay? So, let's try another example. Illustrate the other side of this coin. 2y minus parentheses y plus x equals y plus 1. Okay. So here, I want to get the x-intercept. I set y equal to 0. So what does that do? That gets me this goes away, and that goes away, right? If y is equal to 0. So this just becomes negative x equals 1. All right? All these things with y go away to 0 if I set y equal to 0. And so divide by -1, so x equals -1, right? So this is what? This is -1, 0 for the x-intercept. What about the y-intercept? What about the y-intercept? I set x equal to 0. If I set x equal to 0, well, it means everything with an x in it goes away. So what's going to go away? This x goes away, right? So I have 2y minus y equals y plus 1. 2y, so that's y equals y plus 1. If I subtract y, I get 0 equals 1. That's a contradiction again. Contradiction. Oh my goodness. All right. So what does this tell me? That there is no y-intercept. Okay, if you get something that makes no sense, then it probably doesn't make sense, right? So you can't have it happen. So there is no y-intercept for this one. So what does that tell me? Well, I've got the equation of the line. Okay, here. And I have the location of the x-intercept here. Okay, so if I graph this, I'm doing it without my pretty little notepad. That's okay. So I go over -1. Okay, that's the line. Now, if there's no y-intercept, that means that I can never cross the y-axis. So it means I got to be vertical just like this. And so that's the equation, x equals -1. So in general, a vertical line is of the form x equals some number. Okay, x equals some number. So earlier we found that if it was a horizontal line, like right here, we had y equals a number. And then down here, if I have some vertical line, then I have x equals a number. So there is some symmetry going on here. And so hopefully this gives you a better idea on what to do if you are going to find the intercepts. Okay? So one other like oddball scenario, say you drew your graph and you graphed it, and the x-intercept was 0, 0, and the y-intercept then would be 0, 0. So that means that you have 1 point here, right? And so the problem with this scenario is that this line, right? This line can be many things depending on, which angle you were doing it. Because this line, that line would be different than this line, right? They have different slopes, but they both pass through the origin. So you would need more than 1 point in that point. Okay, and so to get more than 1 point, say you had like y equals 3x, okay? So if you did your x-intercept, y-intercept thing, you get 0, 0 for that, okay? Well, how would you get another point? All you got to do is take any x value you want. I like to choose x equal to 1 because that's easy to plug in. And when x equals 1, what does y equal? Well, y equals 3 times 1, so y is equal to 3 when x is equal to 1. So you go over 1 and then up 1, 2, 3. Okay? And so that would tell you that you're using that line and not any others. So that's a way to get around that if you see that pop in and you have to graph it and it passes through the origin. Okay?